I found out my husband was cheating, so I faked an affair to trap him. But the person I involved had a secret that blew my whole life apart. I guess this is where I come to pour my heart out because I don't know who I am anymore. My name doesn't matter. Let's just say I'm a 34-year-old woman, married for 9 years to a man I once thought was my forever. Let's call him Adam. For most of our marriage, I thought we were solid. Not perfect, of course. We had the occasional argument, mostly about money, house chores, his mother, don't get me started, but it was never anything I thought we couldn't get through. We had built a life together, shared a mortgage, 2 cars, a 3-year-old daughter named June, and a dog named Max. The kind of boring suburban stability people roll their eyes at, but deep down, crave. And then, everything exploded. I found out about the affair in the most cliché way imaginable. I wasn't even snooping. He left his Apple Watch charging in the kitchen and got a text that said, "Still thinking about last night. Can't believe we finally did it." My stomach didn't even drop at first. I froze. I stared at that little screen like it would somehow glitch and change into a grocery list or a sports notification. But then I unlocked it. He never changed the passcode, idiot, and there it was, an entire conversation with someone saved under Taylor Work. Except Taylor wasn't a coworker. She was his old college friend. I had met her twice. Once at a wedding, and once when we were still dating. She hugged him too long, and I remember telling him she gave me a weird vibe. He said I was being insecure. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just read. For 3 hours, I sat on the cold tile floor of our kitchen and scrolled through months of messages. The sneaking around. The lies. The excuses. The careful construction of parallel lives. I felt sick. Violated. Stupid. I didn't confront him immediately. I wanted a plan. I wanted control, something I hadn't realized I'd lost somewhere along the way. And this is where I may have become the villain, or maybe just an anti-hero depending on who you ask. I decided I wouldn't just leave. No. I needed him to feel it. To know what betrayal felt like. But I didn't want to cheat. I'm not that person. So instead, I faked an affair. It started as a joke. My best friend, Mia, was the only one I told. She's a wild card. Single, no filter, will drink tequila at brunch and sleep with a guy she met at the dog park. When I told her what Adam did, she said, "We should catfish his dumbass." That's when it clicked. Not catfishing, but something smarter. Subtler. I wanted him to suspect. To doubt. To unravel. I picked someone I knew he hated. Someone who used to work with us both before quitting 2 years ago, Caleb. He was tall, charming, the kind of guy women naturally flocked to. Adam always acted weird around him, even though Caleb never crossed a line. I still had his number, so I texted him, awkward and vague, "Hey, can I ask a strange favor?" To my surprise, he agreed to meet for coffee. I didn't tell Caleb everything. Just that Adam had done something that shattered my trust, and I needed to make him sweat. I asked if he'd be okay sending me a few fake texts, maybe taking a few pictures looking too close if we were ever in public. I expected him to say no or laugh me off. But he just looked at me, long and quiet, and said, "You sure about this?" I said yes. So we did it. For the next 3 weeks, I crafted this illusion. I'd leave my phone unlocked. Let Adam see a few flirty texts. Caleb and I staged a picture of him kissing me on the cheek while I was laughing. I uploaded it to my Instagram story with a cryptic caption, "Some nights feel like a new beginning." The effect was immediate. Adam spiraled. He suddenly became clingy. Started planning date nights. Buying flowers. Acting like the guy I married a decade ago. At first, I was disgusted. He only fought for me when he thought I might leave. But then I felt smug. It was working. He was finally feeling the panic he had made me choke on alone. But the high didn't last. Because then, I made a mistake. A stupid, colossal mistake. I slept with Caleb. It wasn't planned. It was a late night. We'd just taken some photos at a rooftop bar where I knew Adam's coworker would be. We were drinking to celebrate the success of the operation. 1 drink became 4. I was feeling reckless, sad, powerful, broken, everything all at once. And Caleb. He kissed me. I didn't stop it. And the worst part? It wasn't just sex. It felt like something else. Something deeper. I woke up the next morning in his bed, staring at the ceiling, knowing that I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. That day, I confessed everything to Mia. She screamed at me. Told me this was spiraling out of control. That I wasn't punishing Adam anymore, I was just torching my own life. And maybe she was right. Because 2 days later, Adam confronted me. He came home early from work, slammed the door, and held up a printed photo of Caleb and me on the rooftop. "What the FCK is this?" he asked. My heart stopped. I started into the speech I'd rehearsed, how I found out he cheated, how this was payback, how I never meant to cross that line, how. But he cut me off. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. Instead, he said 5 words I will never forget. I already knew. About Caleb. I already knew. About Caleb. My mind blanked. My throat dried up instantly. What? What do you mean you knew? I asked, but I barely recognized my own voice. It sounded like it was coming from underwater. Adam threw the photo onto the kitchen counter, where it skidded to a stop beside our daughter's sippy cup. "I've known for weeks," he said, calmer than he had any right to be. "You're not as subtle as you think. You've been leaving your phone around, giggling at texts that were obviously planted. And you think I wouldn't recognize his cologne after all those years working together?" I started to speak, to lie, to spin something, but he raised his hand. "No," he said. "I let it play out because I deserved it. I know I did. What I did with Taylor. It was a mistake. A huge, selfish mistake. And when I realized what you were doing, I thought maybe you needed to get it out of your system. Maybe we'd even the score. Maybe we'd survive it. But now?" His eyes darkened. "Now I think we're past survival." I felt everything crumble under me in that moment. Not because he caught me, but because I realized I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. Did I want to stay married? Did I want to blow it all up? Did I want Caleb? Caleb. The name alone made my chest thud unevenly. "You don't get to act like the victim," I snapped, feeling the heat finally rise. "You cheated first. You made me feel like a fool. Like I wasn't enough. You broke us. And you finished the job," he said coldly. That night, he didn't sleep in our bedroom. He took the guest room. June didn't notice, thank God. I lay in bed with her watching Moana for the 50th time, her small hand in mine, tears streaming silently down my face while she sang How Far I'll Go. I couldn't help but feel like I'd drifted so far from who I used to be that I couldn't see the shore anymore. The next day, I called Caleb. I needed clarity. I needed something to make sense. We met at the same coffee shop where this whole mess began. He looked tired. "He knows," I said, sitting across from him. "He knew about us." Caleb didn't flinch. "Yeah," he said after a pause. "I figured." "What does that even mean?" He stirred his coffee slowly, deliberately. Then he looked up. "It means I think he's been playing his own game. You think you were the only one setting traps? He was waiting for this to happen. You both used me as a pawn, and I let it happen because..." He stopped. "Because what?" I pushed. "Because I wanted to be with you," he said simply. "Since before you ever married him." I blinked. My heart flipped. "You never said anything," I whispered. "I couldn't. You were taken. And then married. And then pregnant. But the truth? I've loved you since that first week we worked together. I left that job because it was killing me seeing you every day. I felt like I couldn't breathe." "You think you're the only one whose life imploded," he added. "But I've been keeping this secret for years. You came to me, asking me to fake something, and I thought, at least I get to be close to her again. Even if it was pretend. Even if it ripped me up." I didn't know what to say. So I did what I always do, I ran. I didn't answer his texts. I didn't speak to Adam. I just existed in this weird emotional limbo. During the day, I smiled for my daughter. At night, I sat on the bathroom floor with a glass of wine, wondering how I became this version of myself. Then, a week later, I got an email from Taylor. Yes. That Taylor. The subject line was just, "I owe you the truth." I opened it, heart pounding, and read every word like it was a court verdict. She claimed she had no idea Adam was married when they reconnected. That he'd told her we were basically separated, and they were just hanging out. She said she broke it off the moment she found out the truth and felt sick about it ever since. Then, at the end of her email, she said something that made my blood run cold. I didn't want to say anything. But I think he wanted to be caught. I think he wanted an out. He kept telling me he wasn't sure if you two were even compatible anymore. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything. I read that line over and over. He wanted an out. So this was never about fixing things. It was a chess match. And he was playing to lose. Everything shifted after that. I confronted Adam the next morning. Showed him the email. He didn't deny it. He just stared at me and said, "You weren't happy." I wasn't happy. We were just holding each other hostage. I slapped him. I didn't mean to. I'm not proud of it. But something inside me just snapped. The years of trying. Of therapy. Of compromise. Of pretending we were fine. It all boiled over. And for a moment, I hated him. Not for cheating. But for giving up on us and pretending he hadn't. We agreed to separate after that. Not just a trial thing. A real, we're getting lawyers kind of separation. We'd share custody of June. Keep things civil. But we were done. I told Mia everything. I expected her to be relieved, maybe even proud that I finally pulled the plug. Instead, she hit me with a gut punch question. So, now what? Are you going to be with Caleb? And I didn't have an answer. Because Caleb had disappeared. His number? Disconnected. His social media? Deleted. It was like he vanished overnight. At first, I thought Caleb was just giving me space. After all, I'd ghosted him after he spilled his heart to me. Maybe this was his version of self-respect. I waited a day. Then 2. Then 5. A week passed, and I still hadn't heard from him. I started to worry, not just emotionally, but physically. Caleb wasn't the kind of guy to just disappear. He was loud, passionate, always had something to say, even when he shouldn't. So I called his sister. We'd met once at a Christmas party, and I dug up her number from an old group text. She answered cautiously. I told her who I was, and her voice turned cold, defensive. What do you want? I'm just looking for Caleb, I said. He's not answering, and I'm worried. There was a pause. A long, heavy pause. Then she said, You really don't know, do you? My heart dropped into my stomach. Know what? Caleb didn't just disappear, she said. He's in the hospital. ICU. I felt like the air was sucked out of the room. What? What happened? Car accident, she said. They think he was drinking. It was late, raining. He lost control, hit a tree. He's been unconscious for 4 days. I didn't know what to say. The floor shifted underneath me. I thanked her and hung up. Then I just stood there, numb. I thought back to our last conversation. How he looked at me like I was everything, and I walked away. I ghosted him. I made him a pawn in my personal revenge tragedy, and now he was fighting for his life while I played the victim. I visited him 2 days later. His sister let me in. She didn't speak. She just opened the door and walked down the hall. Caleb was hooked up to a maze of wires and machines, his face bruised and pale. He looked so small. So unlike himself. I sat beside him and held his hand, and for the first time in weeks, I cried. Really cried. Not silent, bitter tears, but the kind that erupt from somewhere deep and messy and real. I'm sorry, I whispered, over and over. I'm so sorry. I didn't leave his side for 6 hours. I just sat there, reliving every choice, every lie, every moment that led us here. Eventually, a nurse gently tapped my shoulder and told me visiting hours were over. I kissed his hand and promised I'd be back tomorrow. But I didn't get the chance. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail. Caleb had woken up. And he'd asked for me. I raced to the hospital, my heart thundering in my chest. When I walked in, his sister nodded and let me through. He looked weak, but conscious, his eyes fluttering open and closed like he was stuck between 2 worlds. Hey, I whispered. His lips twitched. Didn't think you'd come back. Of course I did, I said. I never meant to leave like that. I was scared. I know, he said. Me too. There was a long silence. The kind where everything and nothing is being said at once. I thought I was protecting myself, I told him. By keeping it fake. But somewhere in all the pretending, I forgot what was real. He nodded slowly. That's what pretending does. It always starts as armor. Then becomes a prison. I sat down beside him. You were right. About Adam. About me. I don't even know who I've been these past few years. Someone who forgot how to feel safe, he said. With someone who made you doubt your worth. I bit my lip to stop it from trembling. I don't know how to fix this. Caleb reached for my hand. Then maybe we don't fix it. Maybe we start over. That moment was the first peace I'd felt in months. But peace doesn't last. Not when your life is built on lies, even well-intentioned ones. The fallout came fast. A week after Caleb was discharged, Adam's lawyer sent me a motion. He was petitioning for primary custody of June. His reasoning? Emotional instability. Questionable relationships. Exposure to inappropriate individuals. I nearly threw up. He was using Caleb. Using everything against me. I hadn't even introduced Caleb to June, he had never even met her. But Adam didn't care. He was playing dirty. He knew how to twist things. To make me look like the reckless, cheating, unfit wife. And the worst part? I had given him ammunition. My lawyer was blunt. We can fight it. But it's going to get ugly. Mia was furious. He cheats, you get emotionally manipulated, and now he's pulling the moral high ground? I wanted to believe it would backfire. That any judge could see through Adam's transparent ploy. But custody battles don't care about emotions. They care about optics. And on paper, I looked unstable. Unfaithful. Untrustworthy. I broke down again. In the middle of June's playroom. While she built a tower of blocks and looked up at me with those innocent eyes that still thought I was some kind of superhero. I wasn't. I was a mother in free fall. A few days later, I met with Adam face to face. In a park. Neutral ground. June was at daycare. I came alone. You really want to do this? I asked him. Use our daughter as a weapon? He didn't flinch. You used me. You humiliated me. You paraded the guy around like a trophy. Don't act surprised. I never introduced him to her, I snapped. I kept her out of it. You didn't. He stepped closer. You think you're the only one hurting? You think this hasn't effed me up too? I stared at him. I think you want to win more than you want to heal. He didn't deny it. And then he said something I never expected. Drop the custody fight. Sign shared custody as is. And I'll drop everything. All of it. No court. No accusations. No dragging you through the mud. Just peace. I blinked. Why now? He exhaled slowly. Because she doesn't need two parents at war. And because I know I'm not the better person in this. It felt like a bluff. Or a trap. But I agreed. We signed the agreement 2 days later. And just like that, it was over. Not the pain. Not the consequences. But the battle. The silence that followed the custody agreement was unlike anything I'd felt before. Not peaceful. Not triumphant. Just hollow. It's strange, after months of chaos, you'd think I'd be relieved. Instead, it was like someone had turned the volume down on my entire life. The drama was gone, but so was the adrenaline, the distraction, the anger that had kept me moving. All I had left was the quiet, and everything that had been lost inside it. Caleb was recovering slowly. Physically, he was doing better every day. Emotionally, we were in a holding pattern. I visited him regularly, and we talked about everything, our mistakes, our regrets, the wreckage we'd both helped cause. There was something sacred about the honesty between us now. No more games. No more illusions. But that didn't make things easier. One evening, sitting by his window as he drank from a paper cup of weak hospital coffee, Caleb asked me a question I wasn't ready for. Do you love me? He asked. No hesitation. Just straight to the point, the way he always was. I looked down at my hands. I don't know, I said, voice trembling. I love who I am when I'm with you. I love how you see me. But I don't even know who I am outside this mess yet. He nodded, and his smile was sad but understanding. Then maybe that's your next step. Figure out who that woman is. I'll still be here. I cried on the way home. I thought about what Mia said, about how I'd lost pieces of myself one compromise at a time. First to Adam. Then to being the perfect wife. Then to being the self-sacrificing mother. Then to revenge. I hadn't been making choices. I'd just been reacting to pain. Over and over. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a weekend alone. I drove out to a lake house 2 hours away, no June, no Adam, no Caleb, no Mia. Just me. I brought a stack of books, a notebook, wine, and a bag of old photos I hadn't looked at in nearly a decade. That weekend, I remembered who I was before I became a version of myself molded by other people's expectations. I used to paint. I used to laugh at dumb horror movies. I used to be spontaneous and unafraid. Somewhere along the way, I'd built a life around safety and predictability. And it almost killed me. When I came back, something had shifted. Not fixed. Not wrapped up in a neat little bow. But shifted. Caleb was released from the hospital the following week. He moved into a short-term rental while he figured out next steps. He invited me over for dinner. I made an excuse not to go. Not because I didn't want to. But because I needed to mean it when I came back to him, if I did. He understood. Mia told me I was doing the right thing. You don't owe anyone a happy ending, she said. You owe yourself a true one. For the first time, I believed her. Then came the final twist. It was a Thursday. June had just gone to Adams for the weekend. I was cleaning up when I noticed a letter in the mail pile with no return address. Just my name, handwritten. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a single sheet of paper, and on it was a birth certificate. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then I saw the mother's name. Taylor. And the father's? Caleb. I dropped the paper. I reread it 3 times, convinced I was hallucinating. Caleb had a child. A 2-year-old daughter. And I knew nothing about it. I called Mia in a full panic. She picked up on the first ring. What's wrong? I told her everything. She went silent. Do you think it's real? I asked. Do you think he lied to me this whole time? She hesitated. You need to talk to him. But if this is true, he made a choice not to tell you. And that matters. I drove to his place without calling. I knocked on his door, hands shaking. When he opened it and saw the paper in my hand, I saw it in his face immediately. Guilt. So much guilt. You weren't supposed to find out like that, he said. So it's true, I whispered. He stepped aside and let me in. We sat across from each other, both of us barely breathing. Yes, he said. It's true. Her name is Ella. She lives with her mom in Chicago. We had a thing, years ago, right after I left that job. I didn't even know she existed until a few months ago. Taylor never told me. Then one day she shows up, says she can't do it alone anymore, and drops this bomb. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, quietly. I was going to. That night you visited me in the hospital, I almost did. But you were already dealing with so much. I didn't want to dump one more broken piece on you. I stared at him, my mind reeling. But you lied. You chose to lie. He nodded. I did. And I regret it. Everything ached. My heart, my head, my body. I thought of the conversations we'd had about honesty. About betrayal. About how he was supposed to be the one person left I could trust. And now this. I need space, I said. He didn't argue. He just nodded. And I left. I wish I could tell you that I found clarity after that night. That I took a long walk under the stars and everything made sense. But that's not what happened. What happened was silence. Cold, suffocating silence. Between me and Caleb. Between me and Adam. Even Mia didn't know what to say anymore. It was like I had detonated my entire life and was now expected to crawl through the wreckage alone. I went back to therapy. Real therapy. Not couples therapy designed to fix a broken marriage, but the raw kind, where I had to look my shame in the eye and admit that for years I had been pretending. Pretending to be fine. Pretending to be loyal. Pretending to be happy. I realized I had been performing for everyone, Adam, June, my friends, even myself. Everything I thought I wanted had been shaped by fear. Fear of being alone, fear of failing, fear of what people would say if I walked away. It took me 3 weeks to call Caleb. When I did, I asked if we could meet. Not at his place. Not at mine. Somewhere neutral. We met at a coffee shop. The same one where all of this started. He looked different. Tired, but grounded. Like someone who had finally stopped running from the truth. I'm sorry, I said, sitting across from him. I've said that a lot lately, but I mean it. I know you do, he replied. And I'm sorry too. I should have told you about Ella the second I knew. I didn't want you to see me differently. But I do, I said honestly. Not in a bad way. Just. In a real way. You're not perfect. Neither am I, but we can't build something real on half-truths. I want to be honest with you, he said. Always. I believe you, I said, and I meant it. But then I added, and I still can't be with you right now. He looked down. I figured. I need to be okay alone first, I continued. I need to know that I can stand on my own 2 feet before I lean on someone else again. I need to rebuild who I am, who I was before Adam, before all of this. And maybe when that woman is ready, she'll want to find you again. His eyes glistened. Then I'll wait. As long as it takes. I smiled. Don't wait. Live your life. Be a father to Ella. Heal. And if our paths cross again down the line and it still makes sense, we'll know. That day, we didn't kiss goodbye. We hugged. A long, painful, beautiful hug that said everything we couldn't. That was 4 months ago. Today, I'm still figuring things out. June is thriving, She loves ballet and makes me watch her twirl in the living room every night. Adam and I are civil. We co-parent better than we ever partnered. He's seeing someone new. I'm not. And that's okay. I painted again last weekend. For the first time in years. A self-portrait, kind of. It doesn't look like me, not physically. But there's something in the eyes. A softness. A strength I hadn't seen in myself for a long time. Mia said it best when she dropped by recently, "You're not broken. You just finally stopped pretending you weren't." So, Reddit, here's my confession. My mess. My redemption arc, if you can call it that. I don't know if I'm the asshole. Or the victim. Or the villain. Or the survivor. Maybe I'm all of them. Maybe we all are, at different points in our lives. But I do know this, the truth will always find its way out. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, for yourself or someone else, is walk away when staying would mean lying to yourself a moment longer. Thank you for listening.